Hey, welcome to the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Cam.
I'm Luke.
And today, it's the special episode we've been talking about, or we talked about last week, hinting at, Luke and I have been excited about this for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But today, we have the president of our university, President Jay Gatrell. How are you doing today, sir?
Fantastic. I appreciate the invite, and I've watched a couple of your shows about mafia, and so it's been. I enjoy your podcast, and I enjoy the reviews. You also write from time to time in the Daily Eastern News. So I'm certainly pleased and happy to be here, and just we'll see where this goes, right?
Yeah.
And to help commemorate the moment, we decided it'd only be fitting if we all sported some fancy bow ties.
You know, if you don't go to Eastern, our president, I don't think I've ever seen you without a bow tie.
On Fridays, you will. I tend to wear spirit gear unless there's a meeting I have to go to. So I'll wear something with a logo on it.
Okay. Yeah, we wanted to. We were nervous too because, like we said before we started, we thought you weren't gonna wear a bow tie because it's 7 p.m. on a Monday. So I thought you were like off the clock as a president. So, but glad you came in one.
You're never off the clock.
But today we are talking about North by Northwest, the 1959 action film by one of who's considered like the greatest
greats, yeah.
You know, director Alfred Hitchcock. And I want to tell the story about how I told my parents that we were gonna have a special guest on, and I saw him this weekend. We were talking about it, and I remember you and I talked, or we saw each other at homecoming in like October or something. And you said you liked the show, and I was like, I really appreciate it. And then I think I asked you what your favorite movie was. You said North by Northwest. I was like, that'd be really cool. But then I was talking to Luke, and I was like, what do you think it's
I think it's the move. I think we gotta ask him.
Should we ask him to come on the podcast?
I think we have to.
You and I met in January, and then we set a date. And today's the day. But I was just curious, why this movie? I had not heard of this movie. Alfred Hitchcock, he has like a bunch of different movies, Vertigo, Psycho, The Birds. I had not heard of this prior, but why this one?
Well, it's a great question. One of the reasons I love North by Northwest was because when I was about your age, I was a sophomore, maybe a junior in my undergraduate education, and I had a course called Intro to Film. Okay. And the professor, Dr. Eldridge, used this as an example of sort of an interesting sort of cinematographic take on, sort of the maturation of Hollywood as it went into the 1960s. And also as, in some ways, he really sort of felt it was Hitchcock's best film. Okay. Relative to I'm not going to debate which was his best film. But I was touched and really taken by sort of thinking about film differently. I mean, this is the reason you have general education courses, in case anybody really wants to know. I mean, So I had this class that I didn't think I really wanted to take, and I'm sure you've never had that class, right? But if you make yourself open to learning, you'll be surprised what'll happen. And so I've probably seen this film 5 or 6 times, and I've caught snippets on TV here and there. It's just a beautiful film in a lot of ways and visually, but the use of language is really, I think, amazing too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll agree with the language thing. I had a note in here about that, about dialogue between, what's his name? Cary Grant as Thornhill and Eve Marie Saint as Eve Kendall. The dialogue that they have and the chemistry between those two is really strong. I almost want to say palpable at times. Okay. But that feels like a weird description based on some of the conversations they have. So I don't know about that. But like it really stuck with me too. Like it felt so natural, but yet so sarcastic in a way that they both just bounced off each other. And that carries over for Grant's portrayal of Thornhill for the rest of the film. He's sarcastic at any given moment, even when he's completely drunk and being almost thrown into a river. But, I thought that was funny and it was really good. Another thing that I really liked was just kind of the general filmmaking of everything in this, from design to the acting, like I said. Some of the camera movements and cinematography stuff and the colors too. Sure. Like everything felt so strong at just about that time period that it was made in, because you got like this classic film grain that's there too that you don't get much anymore. It just felt really authentic.
It was. I mean, I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was shot in 70 millimeter, and it's VistaVision, right? And which was
Not sure about VistaVision.
So VistaVision, Google it right now. Make sure I'm right.
Yeah.
He's got it. He's
VistaVision was like the precursor to what would become IMAX. And there were a number of films that used that technology in the 1950s through the early 1960s. I think it's sort of, was passé by the time the 70s moved along. But just visually very beautiful. The colors and the richness of was I right? Was it 70 millimeter?
Both 70 and 35.
Okay, so it has double.
Yeah. But you were saying it was VistaVision too.
Yeah, and and that's one thing I learned a lot. Like Technicolor, VistaVision, all that sort of lingo from the 1950s and 60s. So learned a lot actually. But this is a great example of just beautiful cinematography. The colors. I mean, I think there are. Everyone talks about the airplane scene, right? It's sort of the big one, which I don't want to give it away. But to me, one of the most beautiful, visually stunning moments is when they're in the UN building, in the General Assembly building. Okay. And you have this, just this cacophony of people doing stuff, and then he's trying to deal with his issue, right?
Yeah.
Which, he's essentially, isn't he an advertising executive?
Yes.
Yeah.
And somehow he's thrust into the middle of a spy situation. And it's just that is a beautiful, beautiful visual.
Yeah. Sure. And then there's a scene too where I think it's shortly after that where he gets in one of the cars and drives off, and you get this massive overhead shot of the Circle Drive and then like the main street that's out there and then the building on the side.
Yeah. When he rushes out of the it's
like right after he gets framed for murder.
Yeah.
Okay. And like just all the colors there feel really poppy.
Yeah.
I don't know how to word. Yeah, I don't know how to word that, but like they stand out, but they feel like true to the time.
For sure. Were you gonna keep going?
I was, but it's all right.
Sorry, keep going.
But like how you said with that would later become IMAX, like that's one of those wider shots that I feel like if that wasn't in an IMAX theater today, you would have those sides cropped down to fit for normal theater screens, and only IMAX would be able to get that large of a scale.
What I really appreciate, I know we're talking about like filming on or shooting on film and versus digital, is like when
Which
you
I know nothing about other than one class.
I think when it's done today, it helps make films pop, like we're saying now. But since it was filmed, back in '59, it's obviously more organic because they didn't have the option to shoot on digital, and I don't know, it's different because you're when you're shooting on film now, it's for aesthetic purposes, but this is like literally all they had to do, and it still looks great.
Yeah.
Just something about that, just
like it feels real.
Yeah,
like
authentic.
it's not. Yeah, it's just authentic. It's real.
Yeah.
You're there. You're present and
it's
immersed
not for
in everything.
style or anything.
Yeah.
This is literally just as how beautiful it's as good as it can get right now.
Yeah, especially with like how we mentioned with the plane scene earlier that everybody talks about. Like all of that feels real. Feels
For
like there's
sure.
some stakes involved with it.
We didn't give a synopsis of the film. We're kind of
We didn't. We just started yapping.
we won't give it. We don't really give spoilers. Well, we don't in the.
Well, it's hard to give a spoiler. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously he's not a spy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also, in that same vein, this movie came out in 1959. So if you haven't watched it by now, that's kind of your own problem.
What's your take on that? Because me and him we haven't had debates, but if since this movie came out, say it's another movie, what's the movie? The Gone Girl or whatever. Have you seen it? It came out in like 2012 or something. I don't remember.
I've seen it.
Yeah. Like, just because of the date of a movie, does it matter if you spoil it?
I think you got to wait a little bit.
Well, I think if you really want to see the movie, you're going to see it.
Okay, is that what you're saying?
And if you want to talk about movies on a podcast, you do not. You would hope they would talk about the totality of the film,
Right.
Yeah.
And so, if I was worried about a movie that I wanted to see, and I wouldn't watch that episode. I mean, it's in the notes. Right?
Fair.
I mean,
Okay. I was just always curious because you've always said it came out X amount of years ago.
Yeah. So
before I was born.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just always
the way that I
confused.
kind of look at it is I know Cam's going to judge me for it, but I'm a Marvel nerd, right? So I like going to watch all the Marvel movies and whatnot. And that's like a whole, I don't want to say like cult-like following with it, but everybody kind of respects each other with the spoilers for that. Like if it comes out that week and you get some early press reviews and stuff, you don't mention everything. You give the basis review, but you're not going to spoil the ending. You're not going to spoil post-credit scenes. So that way people have the time to go watch it. And then once you get maybe like a few weeks out or a month or two, once what should normally be the long amount of time that the theater gets to play a movie, but that unfortunately doesn't happen so much anymore.
Okay.
That's when you can start talking about spoiler things and not make the disclaimers about it, because by then it's been out long enough.
Okay. I was just always.
So who does the synopsis?
I
normally
usually
him.
do.
Okay. I still write it down, but he's just been saying it.
I keep it brief. It's so pretty much what it's about. Well, first the film stars. Let's get the cast pulled up. Cary Grant, Eve Marie Saint, Martin Landau, James Mason, Jesse Royce Landis, and Leo G. Carroll. So pretty much what the film is about Cary Grant, whose real name is Roger Thornhill, and he gets mistaken for George Kaplan, and it takes him on like this slew of adventures, and it's so interesting because this is literally the way he meets everyone in the film, because he's mistaken by this other person who's not even real, and he doesn't fall in love, but
Well, you just gave a spoiler because they don't really even realize he's not real until much later in the film.
You said we speak in totality, so let's get it out the way early.
But that's that's one of the cool things about it. It ends up being just a counterintelligence operation.
You know, and
they didn't use that term back then, I suspect.
Yeah. I feel bad for using the spoiler now.
Shame.
Like Luke said, it came out in 1959. But yeah, he meets this other spy, undercover agent, E. Kendall, and she kind of helps him navigate through these web of lies and tries to get him out, but they eventually get into a romantic relationship, which I'll let you figure out what happens to the both of them. I won't give too much of this. Well, I guess I already gave enough out, but that's pretty much what the film's about.
The TLDR of it is they both wanted it. Yeah. But
I guess we can. Did we get into general thoughts?
I think we tried and then we spun off a little bit.
Okay,
but
we can keep.
What are your? I don't think you gave your general thoughts yet.
I don't think so either. I was a fan of it. I was a big fan of it. I had no expectations going into it. I knew it was a Hitchcock film, so I knew I'd like it. I watched Psycho, and I want to say I watched The Birds, and I already knew he was already critically acclaimed, and everyone loves his work and all of that. And I've seen shots of his other films like Vertigo, which are like beautiful just from the few shots I've seen.
Yeah,
so that's
Vertigo
what I was
gorgeous. I mean, the color in Vertigo is fantastic.
Yeah, I only saw 4 frames. Like, wow, doing this in 50, 60 is like really impressive. But I really liked it. Like I said earlier, the dialogue was really well done. And I don't really watch movies this old, but I noticed they shot differently. Kind of, they hold on the shots longer, which I think is really cool. It's a play on blocking because it's so easy to, you're done with one shot, one conversation, boom, on to the next cut. But the way he does, he'll hold on to the same shot for about a minute and 30 seconds to a minute and a half, just of people walking around this small area, but making it work and feel so authentic that you kind of get lost in the movie as it is. I don't know. That's just
I think that's an accurate and decent amount of time to linger on shots, because I have in the past griped films for lingering too long on shots where I'm like, you guys need to move on now. There's nothing happening. They're staring off in the distance.
But what makes this film a little different is they use dialogue to move it.
Yeah.
I mean, so you can stay in the same shot forever because the dialogue is so quick, snappy. Yes, it's a little sarcastic at times, right? But it's quick and it's moving the character and the plot, so the space doesn't have to change.
Right. And it's good dialogue too. It's not like the script is awful and you're dragging it out. I'm engaged with what you're saying in conversations. Right. Like whenever Thornhill sits down with his friends at like the beginning of the movie, and starts talking. I see the camera like kind of turn around and lower down as he sits. And I'm like, okay, I expect somebody to cut. We're going to see somebody else's face talk, and it's going to bounce back and forth. But it stayed there and just didn't move, at least for, like you said, a minute, 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then it cut, and there was a different conversation happening with the two guys that were looking for who they thought he was, and the mistaken identity crisis happens.
Now that we're sitting here thinking about it, I didn't realize how much. Obviously, I knew the script was really well done, but I didn't realize how dialogue heavy it was, and I don't know, it kept me engaged. Like, I know if you're talking for too long, you can kind of zone out. But I guess because so many different things were happening, and I was so intrigued with how the camera was moving, and the characters are kind of interesting as well. Like I kind of knew from the jump that Eve was a spy. It just
she had that vibe. Yeah.
It was too easy. Like why is she so?
Why is she on the train talking to this guy?
Like, he was framed for murder at this point. So and she knows that he is, and she's like, I won't tell anyone.
Yeah, I wonder what's that about. So I'm not too good at catching turns or twists or whatever. But I don't know. For some reason, I saw that one. I wonder how critics did you know that the first time you watched it or suspect it?
No, I mean, I was literally we were in a classroom. We watched it over 2 days.
Okay,
right, because it's a little long, right?
Yeah, 2 hours.
And so I'd never. I mean, I'd seen I think Psycho by that point, and The Birds. I was terrified by The Birds as a child. I remember my mom tells me that story. It was not good.
We have to hear the story.
No. Okay. I did eventually watch it when I got older.
Oh, okay.
But it was a traumatic experience when I was very young.
Gotcha.
So I'm like on a Saturday afternoon or something.
What was your reaction like once it got revealed, though, that it was her as a spy?
Oh, I didn't have it. I mean, it was pretty obvious. I mean, like as you suggested, I look back on it now. I mean, when I was 20 years old, I probably didn't see it, but I look back on it now, and all these characters collide in ways that are just, interesting and novel, but they all have a purpose. Sometimes I think in a lot of movies today, I don't know if you've noticed, there are characters without purposes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's his.
That's
thing.
my beat.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Just like random interactions, but every character, whether it's the guy who commits the murder right at the cocktail party, I mean, all those pieces, everybody has a role.
Yeah. Another thing, kind of with this dialogue, and that it flows well and keeps you engaged for it being pretty talking heavy, is that there is action scenes mixed throughout, and some more sudden suspense, not like creeping suspense kind of. It's just boom, something happened. Well, what happened? Why? Who did it? Kind of thing. Like when he gets framed for murder for the guy who magically like gets stabbed in the back and pulls the knife out right as he falls, so everybody turns and is like, he did it.
Yeah,
that's like that sudden suspense where like as the not the reader.
Audience.
Why am I thinking of reading?
Watcher.
Yeah, the audience. Yeah. That like it's not him, but everybody else doesn't know that. So then you have that instant suspense is what's going to happen to him. So there's that, and I really enjoy it. Problem is, I think I was left a little unsatisfied by some of the action.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll
kind of agree with that. Well, I'll go back to your first point.
Well, yeah. Well, wait. It's 1959. That's what okay. No, there is. I mean, I watched a horrible movie the other day on Amazon, Fall Guy.
With Ryan Gosling?
Yeah, horrible. I don't even know.
See, I liked that movie. I think there's.
I didn't watch it.
I mean, is there something wrong with me? Am I the problem?
But that was. It was all about action, right?
Yeah,
blowing stuff up, and I mean, it was so absurd, right?
I suppose I should probably clarify. Like the action's not bad, but me being unsatisfied with it, I don't need this like grand explosion thing like the Fall Guy has, right? I think the problem with it is that it moves on a little too fast from some things. Like there's little fights and scuffles throughout, but they don't last that long. So I don't know if I'm supposed to just talk it up to like other people being way stronger than this random ad salesman, or like if like it's just happening because plot. But like whenever in one of the earlier scenes when Thornhill rejects the offer to drink from the bourbon glass, some guys like pin him to the couch.
Oh yeah,
right. And I would expect there'd be some resistance for him, But he like flatlines and just lets them like pin him down on the couch and open his mouth.
The next scene, we're in the car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, if there was at least like visual of him like struggling or something, I would have forgave it a little bit. But we moved on kind of quick from that, and then that became like a running thing that we move on really quick from some of these action moments, and it gets a little bit better towards the end. There's a really tense kind of final climax scene right before the last one with some action there, and I liked that. And then the plane scene, I like that one a lot too. That's some good action, but it feels a little moved on.
Would that be an example of sort of more the classic sort of stage approach rather than say film, right? I think over time how we've used this sort of genre, I don't know. I mean, I think it's changed how we use and think about action and the role of dialogue as well as things like fights, right? Which is what you're talking about, because they aren't realistic. I mean, they're the types of things you would see on stage in New York or in Chicago.
Yeah.
They're brief and they're not especially engaging. So I would agree with that point. But in order for him to get in the car, right, and drive fast and crazy down and have I guess it was an accident technically.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have some sort of driver for that, because he clearly wasn't going to consume all that alcohol.
100%.
So,
yeah. I don't discredit that. I think maybe for me it was just, I wish they were a little longer, maybe.
I think I'm gonna go back a second. What you said about how it kind of just pops at you like something. I think what played into that really well was the lack of music. Because
well, wait, but then it has a Bernard Herrmann's score. I mean, it's a beautiful score.
it happened after the fact. Like there was nothing coming up. Like, you know, when in the horror movies, or this isn't a horror, but you know, in it's suspenseful, the music kind of creeps up and whatever, and then it pops at you at the same time. But in this, it happens at the same time, so you're hit with all of it at one time. I think that kind of gives you that shock factor when, you know, you are stabbed, or when the plane does crash, or the gun goes off, you know. But I forgot what I was going to. No. You said something else. I forgot.
It was mostly just
you
wishing
said,
it was longer.
Yeah,
like
the action scenes.
Yeah.
We do kind of just move on.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it took me out for a second, but I don't think I knocked it down points because I understand how we got to where we are. Like how we were saying.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he gets on a bus, he gets on a train, he's in Indiana. I mean, it is geographically just nutty.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
And all over the place. Yeah.
I mean, and then he's in, is at Mount Rushmore. I mean, it doesn't make sense that you would travel that much in such a short period of time.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if it would be possible, right?
Yeah, it definitely felt long. I wouldn't imagine it'd be a short trip, especially with the train ride for ICPA to Chicago. Like, it was only 3 hours, but it felt like it took forever.
Yeah. I was knocked out for half of it.
Yeah.
Or, no, not half, all of it.
You were definitely knocked out for all of it, man.
Yeah. You said you had a point to make.
Well, I don't know if I have a point to make, but, one of the things I love about this film is that it just runs from one absurd thing to the next, right? Not only does the geography, I mean, it kind of works, right? I mean, you kind of see the westward movement and those pieces, but, I mean, the sort of absurd nature of some of these things also makes it charming, right? The absurdity of it all makes it charming. And it reminds me of a film that is equally absurd and sort of wide-ranging. Remember National Treasure, right? Which is a great Nick Cage movie.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I haven't seen it. That's a big action movie.
yeah, but it's just one big thing after another that just doesn't seem plausible. I mean, it's the implausibility of all these things stacking up, right? That I think heightens sort of the excitement, and and I think it's a National Treasure too. They actually have a shot at Mount Rushmore, and so it's this series of unbelievable events, right, that lead to sort of some sort of climax, whether it's in the case it's finding the treasure, right, in National Treasure, or in this case it's sort of finding
Who is it? I
Yeah.
guess. I think we brought up Mount Rushmore. I think that's those are my favorite shots of the whole movie. Like these super wide shots, and you get these two minuscule people that are on top of the rocks and everything. Yeah. I thought that part was really beautiful. I'm looking at
but when Eve is sitting there with, like clinging to the right rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so unbelievable.
I'm glad we're all on the same page. I am so happy. I was thinking, like, there is no way she slips and doesn't die right here.
Yeah.
After the guy right before her did exactly that.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how do you, we'll just climb down. I don't think that's something you could just climb down. That's something.
However,
And I'm trying to figure out how does that, how is a Forest Service or National Parks ranger that good of a shot at that distance?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy. We said that at the exact same time.
Yeah, I don't. It's
Although I think I may have a answer to it though, but I don't want to mention that just yet. I want you to finish your thought first.
Well, I'm kind of intrigued now.
Oh, all right. I did it all last month, and I think I want to start doing it more often and finding like a deeper type question to ask about each movie that we talk about, more as like a thought discussion kind of thing. This one's not nearly as in depth as the ones all last month, but what's the take on the ending, on that final scene?
I wasn't. Oh, you
Are you talking about the on the rock or in the train?
Both. The final scene's like in the train, but how the both like interact with each other. What do we think about it? How do we feel about it?
He saves her life and they fall in love.
All right.
That's what I got too, but I wasn't. I was a fan of the edit, like the fade transition thing and how that works, but I wasn't a fan of how it went together. If that makes sense. Like I like the editing of it, but I don't like the plot of it. Like how we found out. You know, it's just a random.
And then they go into that. Is it in a tunnel?
The tunnel
It snaps out.
And what's the there was no there were no end credits, but the intro was that's really what stuck out to me first because I can't. How do you? What, Metro Goldwyn? I forget the company that produces it, but that was in green, and I had not seen that before. I know it's such a small detail, but that I don't know that caught me off guard for some reason. But we don't even. That's all we get. They go into the tunnel. Boom. Movie's over.
Yeah, for me, didn't like it that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What didn't you like about it?
So normally in movies with,
I mean, it's not believable.
Oh, it's definitely not.
Okay, sure.
But
Yeah.
but like how we were saying earlier, like there's these things that just don't seem so believable, but they happen anyway. The way that I kind of interpret this ending is not that the final scene is still after some resolution that's not on screen happens. I took it more as these two were on a trip this entire time, and they were just role playing and making up a story on the train.
Like a Newhart action. Newhart, remember that comedy sitcom in the 90s?
Blanking on me.
Yeah, so that's how they ended that series, where he woke up, Bob Newhart woke up, and he was with the co-star of the Bob Newhart Show, which is the show he started in the, I guess, 60s or 70s, and the entire Newhart series from the late 80s to the 90s was a dream.
Yeah.
That's how I kind of.
Yeah, because like there's, when it cuts, what's her name?
Eve.
Yeah, Eve says like, "Oh, that's ridiculous" or something like that, and he pulls her up like onto the top bed that's like now folded down. So in terms of context, like I kind of viewed it as he's acting as if that top bed is the cliff that he was like reaching off of. So I feel like if they're making up this story the whole time as they're going, that is where things that are just seeming really unbelievable can be explained, as they're just making it up and having fun. So like, it's not as much just plot happening because of plot. It's more like, oh, he nailed that shot from such a great distance because they just decided that's how the story was going to go. And on one hand, it's fine. But like in most films that have a twist or some big reveal like that at the end, there's usually almost always some form of build-up and hints throughout the movie leading to this. And I don't really feel like there's much of that here. So for me watching it and seeing that just quick hard cut, it's like, oh, we'll come up here, Mrs. Thornhill, and then the movie ends. I feel like really unsatisfied by it, and I wish that scene was not there, and instead there was just a proper resolution to the story, and then it ended.
So you're concluding that was all a dream.
And there are people who claim that. I mean, I don't think that's.
I don't know if it was a dream more so.
Or just the role playing.
Yeah,
like
I
that.
think it's more like you know how when you're young and like you're in the schoolyard or whatever, and you're just play and make believe with your friends or something like that. It's kind of like that between them two within the confines of the train car. And that's the way that I viewed it and understand it.
Well, I like to believe they fell in love.
I do too.
I mean, he said Mrs. Thornburg, or Thornhill.
Thornhill, yeah.
For a brief second, I'll agree because I was sitting down. I watched this earlier today. I was around 12, and the movie. I'm just sitting there watching it, and I see that I'm like, there's no way that's real, or there's no way that this was all like just fake. So I like to say that they get out of the Mount Rushmore, and then they go on with their own lives, and they're just going on to the next destination.
Yeah, I think for me it just didn't strike that way.
Okay.
And I wish that it kind of retained more of the entire movie plot, basically, where you get a satisfying conclusion more than this it was all make-believe type resolution.
It's interesting you say that because I like how that didn't even come. I mean, like I said, it came across me briefly, but I'm like, there's no way that happened. But then I like how that's what all movies are for. Not for, but like if you have an ending like that isn't so concrete that we can all have debates on. Oh, is this what happened? Then we can prove our claims and everything. And like, instant. I know you love Nolan, so Interception. Wow, that's not the name. Inception. Was the?
Did you say Interception?
I did. Interstellar.
That's a football movie. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like
Inception is the coin real or like?
Yeah, I couldn't watch that movie. I tried.
Really?
Oh, there was just with the. It was too much.
It is a stomach ache. It's a headache.
That's Tenet for me. I've tried to watch that movie, I think 4 or 5 times.
And I like that movie.
I want to, but like I just can't understand it. And that's just a me problem.
I'm the same way with Blade Runner.
I still haven't watched that one. I need to.
I mean, that was in the same class that I saw this.
Oh, the original.
Yeah, the original. And I'm like, I don't understand this movie. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, robots. I mean, but everyone has their own their preferred style, and
for sure.
Yeah, and I think like for this, with the way that the ending plays out, it could work, but it doesn't because there's, like how I said, there's no hints throughout that it is them just kind of messing around. Mm-hmm. So like if you, for example, added, I don't know where you could put it in, but if you added some miscellaneous dialogue in the background that's kind of faint, but you hear it and it's like people passing by on the train car, like somebody knocking on the door, be like housekeeping, and you'll be like, not right now, something like that. Then you like hear it, but it doesn't make sense with the rest of the context. You're like, what is that? And then you get to the ending, you see that they're just messing around the train car. Then you can look back on that and be like, oh, so that random dialogue that we heard, that's what's real. And they're just hearing that in the background of what they're making up, kind of.
Because there's a lack of context?
I don't want to say like foreshadowing, but that's probably the closest word I could give it.
But why do you refuse? Because we have that lack of foreshadowing, why do you refuse to believe that? Not saying you're wrong, but just why isn't it that they just fall in love and go about their lives?
It could be. That's just not the way that I interpreted it when I watched it.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
I thought,
now, you're selling this dreams theory pretty well, because the more I think about it, I mean, I have heard the dream theory, but he was a advertising person,
right?
And he's creative, so maybe he was telling that story.
Yeah. And
I hope not.
Yeah, because like I was invested in that story so much, because like Cam, whenever he watched it, had no expectations going into it. It's just been on my Letterboxd watch list for a while, and I was going to watch it at some point. And so I sat down, I was like, okay, I'm interested to see what this has in store. And then I didn't see the director's name until like it started, and I was like, oh, I need to pay attention. Like something important's probably going to happen with this.
Did you find his cameo in this show?
Well, it was at the beginning, right?
It was the bus. He got locked off the bus. Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
I thought it was him. What, that wasn't at the beginning?
Yeah. So I can't remember where it was, but he's trying to get on a bus, and they close the door before he gets on.
I think that was one of the.
I didn't catch him in it. Does
he's
he
always got a cameo?
That makes me think of Martin Scorsese.
I thought of Stan Lee. Martin Scorsese.
Stan Lee.
I mean, yeah,
totally.
Stan Lee.
Not a director at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
But no, I think of Martin because it's director, but Stanley too. But like Scorsese, and I don't think all, but some of the films, he'll show up and make cameos, but he's a character that's within the world, but not like directly involved with it per se. So it makes me think of that now that you mentioned that. I didn't even notice that.
Scorsese put his mom in one of the films. I think it was either Goodfellas or Raging Bull.
The one that I watched most recently of his for Killers of the Flower Moon. I liked that one a lot.
So how many movies do you all watch a week?
Not enough.
Not enough. At one point, I was doing about 3 or 4. That's probably like summer or something, but I don't have time. Maybe like 1 or 2. One definitely for this.
Yeah, I'm somewhere between 2 and 3. I usually get 1 for this. My girlfriend and I have been doing an MCU rewatch recently, so 1 for that if we have the availability, and then usually maybe 1 other one for just me to watch and see what's happening.
So is this the oldest film you all have intentionally watched?
When did Psycho come out?
Oh wait, you talking about just for the podcast?
Yeah.
Oh, for the podcast? I think for me, I don't think I've watched anything older than this one.
I don't know when it came out. I know maybe last year, Drew, the old co-host, he played Misty for me.
Oh, that's an old. But
I don't know.
I don't know if that's.
I don't know if it's older than this, but I want to say that's 73. So maybe this is the oldest movie.
Yeah. If it's like going off just
That is
ever.
71.
71.
Yeah. If it's going off ever, I think Psycho is. If Psycho came out first, which
We can talk about Psycho on here.
I know. I'm saying like ever, like
for your
just
personal
life ever.
Psycho
Yeah.
is 60.
Also,
So
this is older.
This is all right.
Is this the oldest movie I've watched? No, I had a film class. We had to watch a silent film. So,
Oh wait. Now that I think about it, yeah.
You're not going to
It's
say
not.
Citizen Kane, are you?
no.
That's an incredibly long movie.
No.
That is Rosebud.
When did 12 Angry Men come out?
I don't know. That's a good film.
I watched that.
You watched the original one.
Yeah.
As far as all time go, like personally, there is one that is older that I watched, and it is the oldest I've seen.
That's 57.
57? Okay, so I think 12 Angry Men might be. No.
For me, it's 1922's Nosferatu.
I knew you were going to say that.
I decided to rewatch it before the new one came out.
That's fair.
So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Do we have any more takes? Any more opinions?
There was one other thing that I thought was just funny. It's not like taking on or off points for, but Thornhill's mom is only 8 years older than the actor is 8 years older than Grant is. So like when I saw her the first time, I was like, okay.
So did you actually Google that or something?
Yeah, I saw a fact about it after, and then I looked at it and I was like, he looks older than she is, but she's his mom. So like I looked at it and I was like, it's only an 8-year gap. So like it's just kind of funny because in one scene she'll look older than him and act older than him, but the next it's just the complete opposite. But just something funny.
Yeah. That's a fun
tidbit.
fact.
Yeah. I also saw another Letterboxd review whenever I rated this one on there that somebody said this was like James Bond before James Bond.
It kind of gave me that.
Yeah, it kind of gave the same vibe.
Yeah.
With like you're traveling to places doing all this espionage.
But the suits were beautiful.
Oh yeah.
I mean, beautiful. I mean,
Taylor.
I do notice a nice jacket every now and then. They were stunning.
I'm not there yet to notice a good, fine cut in a tailored suit. I know Wolf of Wall Street, they had some good suits. That's because theirs were like Taylor by Armani or whatever. And like basketball coaches, there was one coach. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic. Never mind, forget it. I will say in the third act, I was not a fan. I felt like things were getting a little too chaotic. And like you said, we were moving on kind of between segments too much.
Right.
I don't know, that kind of took me out of it for a minute. But it wasn't I don't know if I was getting confused. I just felt like there was just too much going on.
Oh, there's a lot going on. I mean, there's people talking, there's running, there's the airplane scene, which is what everyone talks about, which we haven't really talked about.
We haven't.
I mean, in Indiana, and just a, amazingly tense scene, right? With almost no dialogue, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Just sitting there for a second.
And, Cary Grant's running on that dirt road, and there's the tanker that explodes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's quite nice.
I think it's a great shot when he's running kind of in the foreground and the plane is in the background, but it's still in focus at the same time.
Coming at you.
Yeah, that was a great shot.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
But yeah, I don't know. Do we have any other thoughts?
This was fun. I mean, I have no complaints.
Okay.
You all are the bosses.
Oh, no.
Do you have anything else?
I don't think so.
I'm out of stuff too. So
Up in the ratings?
Yeah. So Jay, for ratings, we go off a scale of 5, just rated out of 5. What did you think?
I'm going to say 4.5.
4.5.
All right.
4.5. Okay. I know you want to hit it.
I did want to hit it. I stared at it for a second. I was like, should I hit it or like, should I? No. I think I'm going to give it a 4.
Okay.
I think.
I'll give you a 4. I'll give you
No clap. All right. But no, I think 4 because I would have given it 4.5 if the ending resolved in a nicer manner, like I mentioned.
So what's the best rating you've ever given, Luke?
5.
For what?
I can look, but Cam doesn't like it.
I don't care. It's not that I don't like it. It's just
he gives me a hard time about it. I should say.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Oppenheimer's a 5, for example.
I would give that a 4.
All right.
he loves that movie.
I do.
I mean, it's a great movie. I mean, it was one of the best movies in the last couple of years.
For sure.
I think one of the things that like can bump it to a 5 is I want to say the highest I can ever give a movie is 4.5, and it'll only ever get 5 if I walk away feeling drastically impacted by it, and like it's like, wow, this is life-changing type movie. And Oppenheimer was one of those movies where I saw it and I was like, oh my God.
You want to be a scientist afterwards?
Not really.
Maybe
I
not
just wanted the nice suit and hat.
But there's an interesting. So I mean, that could be generational too. I mean, I've probably seen 5 or 6 movies on the Manhattan Project and Oppenheimer and just because 50 years old, right? So also, I think that also probably would impact how you experience it differently than I would.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful film too, equally. I mean, and lots of complex issues around politics, free speech, freedom of association. Hits a lot of things that today are pretty important to think about,
right,
that we take for granted. And I don't think a lot of people till 30 years later realize that those politics were going on and really driving and creating turmoil in that community, which was so central to that historical period in our time. So, but yeah, that's interesting.
I'm in a law and ethics class right now for journalism. I'm kind of interested with with articles and how, like, not AP, but I guess, I don't know. I wonder how journalists kind of covered the bomb in more than the bomb drop type of thing. I wonder how they conducted interviews, if any, and how, or what type of answers Oppenheimer gave during them. I know those articles or whatever are probably out there, but just thinking of it now, I think that'd be pretty interesting to look at.
Well, I'm sure it was good, highly censored by government.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That's another thing that comes through, right? Very, your ability to speak.
And
I
how
don't
many
think people realize how constrained it was.
Yeah.
I can't comprehend that, how constrained it is to speak. Because that is an interesting point. I don't think I thought that much in depth about Oppenheimer. I just saw Nolan's name. Well, actually, no. Because he did kind of portray that. I feel like every 3 episodes we talk about Oppenheimer.
We definitely do, and it's mostly because I bring it up.
But, we can move on. I know we're talking about this one.
What do you rate this movie, Cam?
I am going to give this a 4 out of 5.
Alrighty.
4 out of 5. That last act.
It's had to that time.
That last act just, I don't know, it kind of just fell off for me. The ending didn't lose any points for me. I was fine with that. It was one. I can't give it a 5, similar to Luke, unless I walk away feeling like I need to change my life or feeling like a new person.
Yeah.
Didn't give that, and just the third act just kind of fell off for me. And maybe the time could have went down a little bit longer or a little shorter. Not because of just camera movement, but I feel like we were on some scenes longer than needed to be, and you kind of get drawn out of that. But other than that, really great film. I was interested. Your take on was it a dream the whole time was really interesting though. Yeah. But I think that's all we have today. You said to call you Jay on the
just Jay. Yeah. Yes.
Just Jay. Thank you so much, Jay, for coming on and taking time to talk to us about films. We had a good time talking about this for about an hour.
It's been fun. It's been an honor
for sure. Yeah.
I tried. I didn't know what to expect. I hope I did okay.
I wonder if when guests come on, if they feel really anxious about it.
Oh yeah, there's a little anxiety.
Really? I guess there are 3 cameras.
Yeah.
In your face.
And you both are intimidating. I don't know if you know that.
I'm not intimidating. The goofiest person on the planet, man.
Man, I don't think I'm intimidating.
You are. but no, really, thank you. We do appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
But thank you so much. Excuse me. Sorry. Thank you so much for watching this episode. We'll be back next week. Don't know what we're watching yet. Whose pick is it?
I don't even know if we have a guest next week or not. I have to look back at the
notes.
list. We have a draft of who's coming on when.
Yeah, but we'll be back next week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam.
I'm Luke.
I'm Jay.
And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Peace.